Hi everybody, it's Michelle LaVore and
Devin LaVore
coming at ya. And we're so glad that you're here. And
that was kind of a soft intro, wasn't it?
It was. It was a bit.
Are you tired too? You hungry?
No, I'm good.
Well, I'm tired.
And hungry.
Probably. But we're still coming at ya.
But yes, we are so glad that you guys are here. And
it was a very gentle intro.
We are excited to just share with you how God kind of wrapped up the end of this restoration playtime. And it's funny. That kind of sounds funny, like playtime.
Playtime.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to be doing the restoration play. It's going to be Act 3, Scene 52. And basically it's going to cover the end and what God has been doing and kind of where we're at even after that. And so just so much to share. Quite honestly, we're not going to be able to get into real deep with everything that God has done.
How can you?
Yeah, there's so much. But we're going to cover all of the highlights and just whatever the Lord has for us to share with you guys today. And we are
encourage you.
Yeah, do pray that you guys are going to be blessed and encouraged by what the Lord is doing and how He's moving. But before we begin that, as always, we want to give a huge thank you to everyone who has given, who continues to support us. We are support based, and so it's just such a blessing and a gift from God for those who continually give and those who just at any time give. Huge thank you to all of you, particularly over this last week. And so
this is a big one last week.
Pray blessing on all of you. And if you would like to give, we do have a PayPal link, a Venmo, and a Cash App link below, and you can click any of those to give.
Yeah.
And
so how did the restoration play end? Well, it ended on a cliffhanger.
It did.
It really did, right? Now, there's a picture that you want to see a story end, and then there's how it actually ends. And you just have to live with how the author wrote the story. You can either like it or not like it. You can critique it or not and do what you want. There's a friend of ours, who does book reviews, but she also watches our channel. She supports us too. She's amazing woman of God. I wonder how she would review our story. It's like, this is the story of the LaVore's restoration play. It was written by the Lord, and I'm going to give you my thoughts about this story. Be like, ooh, let's see what she has to say. Miss Elena. Did I say it right, Elena? I always say Elena. Anyway. But anyway, you are loved and appreciated.
Yes.
But yeah, it ended on a cliffhanger, dude. This big, huge, long saga ended on a cliffhanger. But here's the deal. The restoration play, you realize, is only 3 years inside of this whole journey that we've been on since the beginning of 2017. So you've got 2017, 2018, and 2019. That's just God doing just this journey that we've been on. And then it started, about, this time.
Yeah, it was
in
April
2020.
It was April 13th.
Of 2020. God's like, oh, this COVID. That's the devil's move. Oh, well, I don't really care. Here, this is what I'm going to start. I'm going to start something. It's like, oh, the enemy's starting something? Well, here, I'm going to start something. And then he started the restoration play for us. And it's just been super cool. You can go and just watch all those videos and catch up.
There's a lot of them.
There's like 3 years worth. But the restoration play ended by, how would you describe it? The Lord just showed up.
Well, I would describe it very much, and maybe I'm going to steal your thunder.
No.
But basically,
there's enough thunder to be shared. Okay.
If you take Song of Solomon and you turned it into a restoration play. That's basically what God's been going through with us.
Yeah.
You know, so much of the Song of Solomon is the heart of the bridegroom and the bride, and they're going back and forth, but there is also a lot of just even within it of like, well, let's get the foxes out of our vineyard. We don't want anything to spoil our love. And so
that's
there's
right in chapter 2 right there.
Yeah, and so there's
that started right away.
There's just been a lot of that as well, as far as just God saying like, hey, let's get these issues out. Let's bring things out into the open. Let's talk.
You mean 444 moments?
Yes.
That have been abundant.
And just kind of just being with the Lord, yet at the same time there is a deep longing. You see that especially with the bride, where she's just longing for him to come, and it's like she gets glimpses of him, you know, and
they have encounters and visitations here and there.
Yeah, but like it's never the fullness of what she's hoping for.
It's the courtship.
Yeah.
You don't actually see the marriage, because it doesn't end with them getting married and this is what it was like and then they had children and this.
Yeah.
Nope. It's just the whole story of the love pursued and love received, you know?
Yeah. And so I really feel like that is what best describes this restoration play. You know, this whole time there is this longing for the fulfillment of the promise that's before us. And it's just like you feel like you get glimpses of it here and there of, oh, this could be the time, this could be the moment, and yet it's always fleeting.
In every chapter.
It's always like just out of reach. And it's like we've just been going through that, but yet at the same time there is just this.
Now you're speaking about 3 years.
Yeah,
you know.
But there's also just this sense of like connecting with the Lord and really going deep with Him and learning of Him, and Him just diving deep into our hearts of let's bring out everything
that's the restoration.
Yeah, it really is.
That's
it's restoring our hearts to Him, restoring love into the relationship in just a deeper and even more meaningful way. And it's just like and of course also just like I think even the restoration of hope and faith, like faith, hope, and love, I feel like have been a huge part of these last 3 years, and of just like God showing how He is faithful, how He's going to continue to go forth with us in our lives. And it's so funny because I feel like I forget where it is exactly in Song of Solomon, but there is that moment where he's like at the lattice where, you know, it's like he's like right there and she's like, oh, you're so close. And I feel like for us, maybe just this last year in June, when it's like, hey, it's time for the parade to begin. We had a whole time where it's like the Lord shows up, the bench of waiting is destroyed, and these are all visions that the Lord gave us. And so if you want to watch any of those, that's from June of 2022. And basically, God just took us on this whole adventure leaf trip thing, and it was like, oh, this is it. This must be the fullness, like we're coming into the fulfillment of the promise. And then we come to this sidewalk and in this vision, and we're waiting on the sidewalk, waiting for the parade, waiting. And it's like, oh, Lord, it's like she comes to the lattice, or it's like, you know, it's that sense of like, I think in this story, like she's already ready for bed, and so she can't even come out, but it's just like, it feels like we're just always missing, like each other. And it's
gosh.
we feel just that longing, just that depth of longing, which is really what the whole book of Song of Solomon is about. It's this deep longing to have the Lord come, to have, Solomon in this case, but just to have the marriage be finalized.
Well, and can I talk about that for a second? Because it's like, as time goes on, you hear what the Lord is saying, and he's saying what he's saying, and his word is authoritative. But then as time goes on, you begin to think, well, Lord, did I miss it? Did I mess up? Did I not hear right? And I mean, you were right there. This was an undeniable encounter. But then it's like some of the things you said were immediate and obvious, but then some of these other things we're still waiting for you to do. And it's like, I appreciate you destroying the bench of waiting, but can you just destroy waiting altogether? No, I'm kidding. It's like, I was under the impression that we weren't going to be waiting anymore. And the Lord might say, well, that's not accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's like, I thought. And it's like, and so, and then as the whole parade thing began, it was just like, I mean, it really hasn't even happened yet. You know what I'm saying? There's elements of it that started, and it's just like, oh, okay, things are happening, and then you have this another long period of time between. And I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I'm used to it at this point. I'm just like, all right, I know this. You're gonna do what you said you're gonna do, but you do start to wonder if you've missed it. It's like, oh, you were just right there, and then you go to the lattice, and it's just, where did he go?
Yeah.
He was right here. I heard his voice. He was right here. Where did he go? And then that was all you get.
Yeah.
He just came up to the lattice and said, oh, my love, my dove, my precious one, I will be back. It's just like, what? No, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. Well, and it's been so interesting because...
like, is your last name Schwarzenegger? I will be back.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, man, I forgot. You don't know this stuff.
No, I do. I just...
The pop culture escapes you.
Yeah. But it's just like that sense, it's particularly last year, where every month God was leaving us on these like cliffhangers, But what was so interesting for us, though, with the Second Chronicles? Yeah, we went through last year's Second Chronicles 2017 was basically a scripture that God had over the entire year. And parts of it were for each month, and every month it was just like, oh my gosh, this is like the theme of this month, and God is working something here. But then we would leave on these like cliffhangers, and even just this last year, the same type of thing, as far as with all the parade visions, that we have movement. Yes, we're going somewhere, and then it feels like it stops, and then God goes and does something different. And honestly, we've been from November through just a week ago, or a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, but April 6th. However far long ago that was, 10 days. Okay. But April 6th, we were in this whole baking the bread and God doing the rolls, and it was just like, wow, so that's a whole time. Living out that prophetic scene. Allegory type of situation, And so we were talking about it tonight, of just how like God, He has given us so many visions to help us know where we're at, but and also I really felt like it's also to know that He is working and He is moving on our behalf. And yes, God is like, all right, I'm doing stuff over here. Okay, now we're switching over here. And then we're switching over here. And you're going, but for our hearts, we're going, wait, aren't we supposed to finish this? Wait, why are we going over here? I don't want to go over here. I want to finish this over here. Like, Lord, what are you doing? But it's like, we just need to trust that God knows how to put everything together, and he knows the timing. And that was something that really came up this week for you in particular. You were just talking about, like, we are on God's timing. And it was almost because it was just like, Lord, the April 12th, it really felt like this is a due date. I did a casting the nets video
on the last day of the restoration play. I was like, well, I did not see this coming.
Yeah.
I'm going to cast nets on the last day of the restoration play. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I tell you what, if anyone says that God's boring, they're not following him. I'm serious. I mean, I say that without any apology, because he is always keeping you on your toes, even when things seem kind of mundane and tedious and monotonous and day in and day out and day in and day. There's still, if you're following him and looking for him, there's always different things that he has planted and planned. And you know, of course, when you go through what we've been through for the past 6 years, there's a lot of heart rendering or rending, and but rendering as well. You know, a lot of tearing down walls and replacing pipe and undoing flooring that shouldn't be there and replacing. I mean, it's a whole renovation thing that God's been doing, particularly this last 3 years. But it's like there's always, even in that, there's always something super amazing and good and different that the Lord's doing. And almost all of it leads you to just trust him more. There are so many decision points in our walk with God where it's like, you either going to trust me or not. You know, I've been going through that lately myself. It's just like, you either going to trust me or not. And your heart may want to be pulled. I really want to go in this direction. Well, why do you want to go in that direction? You know, and it's so much to it, you know. But anyway.
But this take over. The idea of like the timing of the Lord, because the 12th, it really felt like almost like a due date. Like, okay, Lord, this is the end, and so what?
This is our due date. The baby is supposed to be born today.
Is it going to be born? And obviously, like we don't know. It wasn't something like that the Lord said it. You're going to receive your promise on this. No, nothing like that. But your heart is always in hope and expectation of like, could this be the time? Yeah. But the Lord that morning, it was very much just like, hey, you're on my timing. Just because a baby has a due date does not mean that they come out on their due date,
Only 5%.
Yeah. and I know for myself with our third, he was actually the first one that went beyond the due date. The first two were actually both born 1 week and 3 weeks
37
before. And so I was really just kind of thinking, all right, I probably won't go to the due date. The first two never did. And, with him, it was like...
We were actually concerned that he would be born earlier than 37 weeks. Because that's the pattern was showing that. And I was like, oh, man, you need to stay in there and cook, little buddy.
And he's like, I will. I will cook. Long.
He's like, oh, you want me to stay in? All right, you said it.
I don't want to be no disobedient. So, No, but it's funny. But it was funny because it was just like his due date came, it went, and it was just like, and I was already struggling before then as far as the timing, because it was like, oh my gosh, he's going to be in here forever. But God, during that whole time, he was just like, he is not late. And just that reminder of God himself, he's like, I'm not late. When the time comes, that's when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, and that's what we've watched this little YouTube short video from, what was his name? Tim Ross. It was like, you are not late. Yeah. And he talked about how Samuel L. Jackson didn't start his career until he was in his 40s.
Yeah.
And he was like, do you hear me? He started when he was in his 40s. It didn't take off when he was in his 40s. It started. And I was like, wow. And the Lord really ministered that to me, being that I'm 51. And he's like, I'm not late. You're not late. And then we kept getting the number 414 like crazy, you know, like for such a time as this. And I know there's other applications, but on that particular day, it was like for such a time as this. Is like, so he's like, you're not late.
Which comes from Esther chapter 4, verse 14.
14, yes.
And
numbers always lead to scripture or some sort of scriptural reference or something for us. You know?
And so it was just like, okay, here we are on this last day, and it was just like really feeling that sense of, okay, Lord, what are you gonna do?
So as far as the cliffhanger is concerned, that kind of brings us into like, well, what happened? Well, on that particular day, what did happen on that day?
Well, we have to actually start from the night before, on the 11th.
Dear Lord.
When you were doing laundry.
I got the vision on the visitation on the 11th?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
At night when you were doing laundry.
Okay, and so this was really, really interesting, because when we went on our leaf trips, we had a visitation.
Well, that's kind of what it is.
We got a visitation. That's what it's a visitation through a vision, called a visitation. So we had a visitation.
We can coin that word.
From the Lord. And that's where he destroyed the bench of waiting. And then we got this really crazy awesome offering. And then it helped us to go on this leaf trip tour, which I didn't. Anyway, I did not know that that's what was going to happen with all that. Man, I was so happy. I was like, I'm never going to have to do another Casting the Nets video again, at least for 6 or 7 months. You know? Yeah, that didn't happen. But that's what happened. It was like, hey, I'm here, you know? And so then on the 11th, I'm just doing laundry. We're actually kind of we try to keep things as clean and upkept here as possible. Is that a word? Upkept? And so I was doing laundry that night, right? And so I'm just, every single time, I tell you what, every single time I am doing laundry, the Lord meets with me. It's almost like this designated time that he's decided, I'm going to meet with Devin and I'm going to share with him some awesome stuff. I have gotten more words of knowledge doing laundry, because God's like, I just want you to know it's relational. Yeah. You know? And it's like, it's one of the few times where I'm literally by myself. You know, apart from the bathroom, because sometimes you go to the bathroom, you still ain't by yourself. You know what I'm saying? Well, not when you have children. No. But it's like, it's one of those moments where I'm by myself. And the Lord shares crazy awesome stuff with me. Stuff that you would think, oh, you must have been in the Holy of Holies, in the deep place of worship. And no, I wasn't. I was in the deep place of permanent press, normal, cold start. You know what I'm saying? And so as I'm bringing the laundry back up, I'm just coming down the hallway of our hotel, and I just get this vision. I mean, God, man, I tell you what, it was really, really vivid. It was not an impression, it was not a sense, it was not a feel. I mean, it was like the Lord just came out of nowhere, and he was walking alongside of me. And I mean, if you just peeled back just a little bit of a layer, I could literally see him with my physical eyes. I mean, it was that intense and vivid. It wasn't an intense feeling. It's just, he was there, and he was walking next to me, and he was just almost like skipping and all that, because the Lord he's in a good mood most of the time. And he was like, I'm here, Devin. I'm here. It reminded me a lot of Elf like when he came and sang the song to his dad in the office. I'm here now, Daddy.
Yeah.
You know?
I love you.
There's probably like 40 people out there going, great. Now that's going to be in my head, man. Why did you do this? Why did you do this to us? You're going to start a howl. Yeah. And he's just there, and he's just like, I'm here. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then he kind of came and got behind me, and he was walking behind me. He was like, hello, Devin, I'm here. Can you see me? You know? And I was like, whoa. I was like, yes, Lord, I can see you. I can see you, you know? And so that's what happened, you know? And I was just like, I come in, I'm just like, Michelle, this is literally what just happened. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like it was like, I mean, it was so real. It was like I was walking next to an actual person. I could literally like reach out and touch him. That's how vivid it was for me. But he was in such a good mood, and I was just like, okay. And then, yeah.
Well, and that, like, it was just like, whoa, okay, Lord, what are you getting ready to do? Because, like you said, the last time we had a very similar kind of visitation was before we went on all these, like, we went on this journey with the Lord on these leaf touching trips. And so basically, though, Devin, the next day, because it was after, you know, all the kids were in bed, and we were just and it was so interesting too, because it was like all the things that needed to get done, like we needed to do laundry. I was doing a lot with the journaling. It was like God was basically like that night, like I was doing the journaling, you were doing the laundry. It was just like, we're going to get all of these things done. And literally it was like, okay, Lord, I feel like you've cleared out our day tomorrow. Right?
Yeah, it's for real. Who does laundry? I never do laundry
not that late.
Ever.
And so it was just like, all right, Lord, I feel like you have something for us, but we didn't know what it was.
Clearly don't know what it is.
And so then the next morning we got up and we ended up doing our God time, and Devin shared with the kids, like, hey, this is what I saw. And then it was like after God time, we just started talking. It was like, well, you know, maybe we could go to the zoo or something. But for me, something that had been stirring in my heart.
Well, we had talked about going to the zoo, and we were like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds like a good plan for the last day of our
play.
And then I was going to do it that night. I was just going to make reservations that night, because we have a pass that we got, and so all you have to do is just make reservations and show up. You know that pass has been paid for like 57 times over. Yeah. Trust me, we drenched that bad boy. Yeah. But the Lord was like, no, don't do that. And I was just thinking, like, oh, it's probably because it's too late, and the Lord doesn't like me doing like business type stuff or ministry stuff late at night. He's like, no, that's not the time for it. I was like, oh, okay, that's what I thought it was. And so the next morning, and I was just like, oh, I should get those. No, don't do that. And I was like, oh, you must want Michelle just to do that or something, or you know what I mean? Yeah. I just kept thinking, why do I have such a strong, like, no, don't do that. Yeah. You know, I was like, okay, whatever.
And so we ended up talking afterwards, and there was just something stirring in my heart, which was there was basically, I'd heard about it probably well over a month ago.
Well over.
Probably almost
you wanted to
a month and a half. And I wanted to go. It's basically, is called Messiah's Mansion, and it's a replica of the tabernacle. And they were down in Chattanooga, which is only like 2 hours from us, 2.5. So it's not very far away. And it was just like, Lord, I really want to go. And we had talked about, maybe we could find a day when we could, going back and forth, whatever. But it just never seemed like the time.
And like there was no release. Gave it up to the Lord.
I just kind of was like, well, I guess we just won't won't go to that. But then it just really was like back on my heart, and so I talked to Devin about it, and he was just like, yes, let's do that. And so literally,
and I knew right then, I was like, oh, that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. And so it was just really awesome because it just worked out so well, because we were able, you know, we have all these points we were able to use.
I know.
Find a place to stay.
One of the benefits.
Yeah. And then we were just able to...
We're like Diamond Plus members. As high as you can go, that's where we are with this hotel.
But basically, we were just able to go and drive down and then stay the night, and then the next day we had our, you know, you had to make reservations to go, but we got to go and see, and it was just such this great
a one-to-one scale of the tabernacle in the wilderness.
Yeah. And then they had like you know, tour guides that basically would they just were going through the scriptures of just like, this is what this was used for. And
it was awesome.
It was just really amazing.
Really cool.
Particularly because God has been speaking to us about the tabernacle so much.
In reference to our home vision and the vision that he has for 12 stones and, you know, and all that. And it's like, each place is going to represent a certain part of the tabernacle. It's been attached for a long time.
Yes, since January.
Yeah, I mean,
as far as the tabernacle and what God was doing, like how he
like, this
brought
house,
it together.
this is going to be your candle house, your lighthouse, you know. And God's got prophetic words over every part of what he's doing, over every house, over every aspect. And it's like, wow, because it's the house of the Lord.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not even ours. I mean, it is ours in a sense, because we're his, and we're going to be living in his house.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's his house that we're going to be taking care of, you know?
Yeah.
His vision, his baby that we're going to be caring for, his sheep that we're going to be caring for. That's a serious job. I take it very seriously.
Yeah. And so, but it was just so awesome. And then while we were there was just so much just revelation from the Lord. But one of the things that really struck me, and actually it was once we came back, because we basically just came back that same day. We drove down there, spent the night, came back the next day.
Yeah.
After we saw the tabernacle and everything.
After the tabernacle encounter.
Yes. And it was just like, wow, all right, Lord, like, what did we just experience? Like, it was just this like quick thing. And it was really one of the pictures and messages that was really on my heart was just the idea of the shout, the bridegroom is here. And so to go out and meet him, Matthew 25. And it's like, that's what I just felt like. It was like, whoa, the Lord's saying, I'm here. And it's that, hey, the bridegroom is here, go out to meet him. And it was
and then we took off on a journey. Let's
go out to meet him, go to the tabernacle, and then we come back. And it's just like we're in...
This time it was 37 hours.
Yeah.
37 days.
much faster. But you know what,
that'd be
though?
Crazy if it really was 37 hours.
I don't know.
No.
It wasn't.
It was 24 hours.
Yeah.
It was like,
maybe 25 at the most.
It wasn't no 37 hours.
But it was just like, I don't know, there was just so much to it, and that I think we gleaned from, like, as a whole family.
Yeah.
And even just like the shaking up, you know, like I think the getting out of the routine of things, it shakes the heart, you know. And it was just like, oh, wake yourselves up, you know, get the dust off of you. And it was almost like, oh, okay, whoa, something's happening here. And so even like the hearts for our hearts, but also even like our kids, there was just this sense of like, whoa, something's just shaken or awaken in them. And it was just like, it was just a really awesome experience to have. And so it really just kind of also reminded us of the end of Song of Solomon, because basically it's again, there's that.
Want me to read it?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Song of Solomon 8:14, the end of it all, which ends with a cliffhanger, doesn't it? This great big huge romantic saga in the Bible, showing God's affectionate heart and his romantic goo goo gaga heart. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, even in the Bible, it ends with a cliffhanger. And it's like, wow, you don't see the promise fulfilled, but you just know that it's going to happen. You just know. It's like, so it says, joyfully the radiant bride turned to him, the one altogether lovely, the chief among 10,000 to her soul, and with unconcealed eagerness to begin her life of sweet companionship with him. So you know that that's the promise. That's to happen. When you get married, there's going to be a life of sweet companionship that follows. If there was a chapter 9, that's what you would be reading about. You know, girl, we about to enter into chapter 9. Holla. She answered, make haste, my beloved. See, she was under the time frame pressure too. She was like, I can't take it no more. You know, you're taking me to the point of no return. Anyway, make haste, my make haste, my beloved, and come quickly like a gazelle or a young hart, and take me to our waiting home upon the mountains of spices. Yeah.
And so I really just felt like ultimately there was this sense of the bridegroom is here. And even throughout the quick journey, it was just like also being reminded of, the word was like, it's kind of like, you know, when you're about to get married and maybe you go to the place, like I know when we got married, we had to fly out, and we were there like 3 days or 4 days before we actually got married, but so we had things that we needed to get done, and you know, with a family and all of that, and so it was just kind of like you had different activities that you were doing to get ready for the ceremony, and it was almost like the same sense of there's just preparation going on and a getting ready because
cool stuff happening.
It's soon to come, and
that's what that trip was.
Yeah.
Because go ahead, you're probably going to say what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
No. Well, I was going to say because that's what we're going into next.
Yeah.
We're going into the waiting home on the mountains of spices. A long time ago, not a long time ago, but like there's been like a prophetic series of words that God's been giving me. One of them was from Isaiah 40 verse 9. It was talking about, hey, declare to the people, get up to the mountain, get up to the mountain. Even recently, the Lord gave me a prophetic word about, hey, God's, you know, it was basically based on Moses and 70 elders.
Yeah, from Exodus 24.
Yeah, and going up and being with the Lord. He was like, get your hearts ready, you know, get rid of offenses or any kind of issues. Get yourself ready. Get yourself cleansed, priests, because you're going to come up and see the Lord. And that's been a thing. And so the Lord's been doing that with me for a while now. Kind of like a get ready, you know, because God's judgment's coming. Those left in the valley are going to experience the judgment, but those up on the mountain, and it's like, hey, get yourself to the mountain. And so why? Because up on the mountain, that's where the party's going to happen. That's where there's going to be party and festival and awesome stuff. And the Lord's been decreeing and declaring this for a while, for the whole year, pretty much. And man, I've been seeing 10:17 a lot. Preparation. The Lord has heard your prayer. He's preparing and strengthening and directing your heart because he's heard your prayer. That's the gist of that one. And so for us, it's like that's what's getting ready to happen. You know, it's like, because you know when you come to 8:14, you know that, well, what's going to happen is everything she's saying, with unconcealed eagerness to begin her life of sweet companionship with him by by him coming and them finally uniting. It's more than a visitation. It's okay, now we're married now. We're together now. We're here to now. Isaiah 30 verse 20, though I've fed you with the bread of affliction and the waters of whatever,
bread of adversity and waters of affliction.
Yeah, now your teacher will no longer hide his face. There won't be these cloak and dagger, this and that, and visions, and you know what I mean, all that. No, he's going to show his face plainly. You're going to see him plainly. You're going to see a clear, evident manifestation of the presence of the Lord, however that works for us in our actual story and in your actual story. So you know that with all of this preparation and this word, and that's what you know is going to happen here, is the life of sweet companionship in the house on the mountains. That's what we're looking for. So you know that there's coming a time where the Lord's just going to reveal himself in all of our visions. That's what happens. In the end of all the visions, the end that the Lord has not fulfilled any of those yet. We'll get to that here shortly. But that's what happens. He comes. He comes. That's the promise right there. He shows up. And when he shows up, then he does all this cool stuff. But it's him showing up. And it's like, oh, Lord, you're here. And there's a life of companionship, a new life that we're going to begin with you. Leaving the old behind, going into the new. That's been like all of 2022 was that message. And so you know that, okay, the restoration play ends with this cliffhanger with a clear manifestation of the Lord showing up. And it's like, okay, and then we go on this journey. To Chattanooga. And then we come back, and then there's other stuff going on while we're here, and it's very clear, like, wow, this is a new thing going on right now. And it's not, we can't put it into the restoration play or anything. No, this is what happens afterwards. This is what happens after 8:14 that's not written. This is your story. This is what's getting ready to happen. Well, what is getting ready to happen? Well, you're getting ready to have a sweet life of companionship with the Lord. And while we were there, he was like, this is just one of those moments that, when you go to the place that you're going to get married, you have one of those moments before you get married. It's not the marriage, but it's just a moment you and your spouse are having this special between you. That's what Chattanooga was for us. Why do I have to say it like that? Anyway. And so we're just expecting marriage. We're expecting the Lord to reveal himself again, continually to us, like it was in the days of resurrection, where he wasn't there every day all the time. He would just show up here and show up there, and and we're expecting him to we're expecting the fulfillment of the word over our lives, really. And I tell you what, I believe it now more than I ever have. And so, why, Devin, do you believe it now more than ever? Your restoration play ended, and you didn't get the thing that you were. Well, the restoration play was only a part of the bigger picture that God's doing. God has done a ton of restoration over the past 3 years. That's a ton. And so, but there's been so many prophetic rehearsals that we've gone through, so many prophetic things that God's weaved. And if you look at that as kind of like a circular tapestry, it's like God would bring us up to this certain point and then drop off these little dangling threads. And it's like, what about the dangling threads? The cool part, right? Well, the Lord has been tying a lot of the cool parts together. I mean, there's been certain visions that God has given me in the past and in recent days, and I'm literally, right? I mean, it's documentable. It's beyond debate. They're literally happening right before our very eyes. And we're sitting here going, wow. This is literally happening right in front of us. Okay. Well, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we know everything. It just means we're watching these things happen, and God's tying everything together. Even with the latest prophetic journey we've gone on, where God's been comparing our life to like bread, and now we're out and we're on the cooling rack. You know what I mean? Particularly in reference to the vision of the homes and
Yeah.
and all that. Excuse me. But see, that's how you do it. You just let yourself flow. You gotta yawn, you yawn. You gotta sneeze, you sneeze. Hey, if it's good enough for Dutch Sheets, it's good enough for us. Okay, so because he doesn't edit that stuff out, you know what I mean? It's like everybody coughs, but anyway, and yawns. But we've just been watching the Lord do these things, tie these things together. And then I got a vision, which I believe was from the Lord, where he showed me this needle, this like people who do like needlework and knitting. He showed me like him holding this needle, and he was pulling it up, and that needle was attached to all these strings that were going up like that, and he was tying it together, and these things were just kind of coming together. And I was like, remember that?
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is so super cool. And not to say that all of those things that are happening are like welcome and pleasurable, you know, because not every prophetic word or everything that God shows you makes you feel amazing. Some things are just like, what? That's got to happen? Yeah. I mean, think about it. Jesus knew that Judas was one of his 12. And so, you see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to get gloomy and doomy here, but I'm just saying, like, all the things that the Lord said would happen, they're beginning to happen. We're beginning to see them be pulled together. And I'm just like, whoa, this is amazing. And so, and with him showing up and saying, I'm here, Devin, I'm here, you know, all of that, and the end of the restoration play, and just all these time frames that seem to be jiving at the same time, and it's just like, wow. And so we're just kind of sitting back and just watching the Lord do what he does.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the visions, a lot of them have to do with just like,
most of them are positive.
yeah, but most of them is also like they're dealing with the heart, and just like many of the visions that we have, particularly with our family, there's a lot of, it's almost like this is the state in which your heart is at, or
is going
like
to be,
it will be,
when things happen. Yeah.
You can see how
it's so true.
It's just like, wow, Lord, I'm picking up on these patterns and I'm seeing these certain things, and it's like, whoa, what are you doing? You know, because, you know, there's been times when it's like, ooh, this could be the fulfillment of this vision, and maybe it's not. It just seems like it, but it definitely feels like at this point we're just literally like, whoa, okay, God, this really is looking like what you have spoken for sure. Like, just seeing how things are all coming together as far as just even visions for the heart. Particularly, we have all these oil visions over our family, and just like how each of us are and what God has shown in the oil and what he's going to be doing. It's like, whoa, I can see how God is preparing our hearts to enter into that time. And so that's just been like one of the things, but also just how many just even like somewhat insignificant things seem to be lining up.
My goodness.
And it's just like, all right, Lord, you are in control of the time. You know the times and the seasons, and we are just following with you.
That's a good one right there.
In the direction that you're going.
Because we don't want to get overly excited, but we don't want to be like, well, I don't know.
We'll just see.
We don't want to do that either. We're just like, we're right in that tension. We're right in the middle of that tension. We're just walking it out.
Yeah. And so I'm honestly just like amazed by really the ending, because if you think about the play ending, it was basically a leaving. It was like you hear the voice of the bridegroom calling, and you're going out to meet him.
Yeah.
So
it was a departure.
Yeah.
And the Lord had been speaking to me about that for a while. I'm just like, okay. And so that's how it ended.
Yeah.
It ended with a cliffhanger. Can you believe that?
I can.
Because I know what comes after, and what comes after is literally what seems to be unfolding little bit by little bit as we go. And I'm just like, wow, every day is different. Even today, which was kind of like we got to stay in and do some stuff today. I mean, we got literally everything done on our list.
Yeah.
That never happens.
No.
Ever.
we usually get like 50% or, maybe even 70%. But
maybe 20.
You usually don't get
depends on
all
the day.
of it done.
Yeah.
So I think that's really all that we have for you guys today.
This is not the end.
Nope.
My God will finish what he started. Isn't that what it says? Isn't that how it goes?
I think so.
He is faithful to do what he said. Come on. You better close it. Going in a time of worship.
Okay. But yeah, so we do pray that you guys are blessed and that you are just seeing that God is moving. You know, if anything, it's like God is working and he is at work on your behalf. Whether you're seeing it clearly or not, God is with you and he is going to be faithful to fulfill his word over your life because he is faithful to fulfill his promises. He is faithful and true. And so, you know, we are looking forward to the fulfillment of God's word in our life. And I'm right there with Devin as far as just like, I'm like, Lord, I feel stronger and more just like he is going to do this. And I mean, we may not know the when, but we know that he will. And so it's just like, all right, Lord, you bring forth your glory and everything that you have, and we will rejoice and be glad in every day that you give us. And so I do pray that you guys are blessed, that you just see that God would just open your eyes to see his goodness upon your life, no matter where you are, no matter what situation you're in, even if it is in the wilderness, even if it's in a place of a lot of pain, that God's like, I am right here with you. And he will continue to be, and he's continuing to work and move for your good.
Yeah. And I'm just telling you, just by the Spirit, there's, for those who have done right, there is a vindication and a justification from the Lord coming to those people. And you will not have to defend yourself or explain yourself, or what God's going to do in your life will speak loud and clear. No one's perfect. No one's hearing from God perfectly. Even Sean Bowles. That's why I love Sean Bowles. Love me some Sean Bowles. Because he'll say something like, he'll talk about how he's still practicing. It's just like, it's always a practice. It's always that. But the bottom line is, it's not about us hearing perfectly or doing perfectly. It's like, does God have our heart? And are we being obedient to him? Are we walking in that humility, that, what is that, Micah 6:8? Humility that he loves. It's like, that's what he loves. And those who are humble, truly humble, they're going to be led by the Lord. Those who are pure of heart, those people will see God. They will see him. And God won't see your issues or your sins or your missteps or your setbacks or your failings and your fallings and your everything else negative. He just, when he looks at you, he's going to see Jesus. He's going to see a humble heart. He's going to see all the good stuff. And the Lord's like, I don't care about the others. I already paid for that other stuff. Are you mine? Yes, I am yours, Lord. All right, cool. And so, and I believe there is going to be a justification and a vindication, because that's the parade that's coming. You know, that is the parade that's coming. It's a parade of the manifestation of the glory of God, and it will come to those who are ready and who have made themselves ready, and who can ascend the mountain of the Lord. Those who are of a clean hands and a pure heart. It's like, man, get yourself ready, because God is on. He's just, I almost want to say he's here. My spirit just wants to say, I'm here. It's like, I'm not just coming, I'm here. But there is a sense of like receiving the Holy Spirit and then being baptized with the Spirit. There is a sense of the Lord showing up in one way and then coming again. You know, that's just what we didn't even get to touch on that. That's a whole nother video we could make about him coming again. And so we've had this one visitation that sent us to Chattanooga, but we're expecting another one here any minute now. And so God's just on the move, and he's literally at work right now, just doing really great things. So for those of you who have stayed faithful and haven't given up, you know, continue to do so. Don't be discouraged, you know. Get yourself some Phil Wickham Sundays coming, okay? Get a little bit of that in your spirit, and just know, man, God is on the move. So I think that's it, yeah.
Well, guys, until next time, we love you, and we will talk to you soon.
Yep, we ain't going nowhere. y'all gotta see this, okay? Y'all wait and see, okay?
All right.
Y'all gotta see the glory of God, okay, on our behalf and yours.
All right, see ya.
Bye. Michelle, like, I'm hungry. Stop preaching and teaching. We gotta go, okay?
I'm gonna drink some water.
Bye.